once again filming in the car with the background noise to, I guess, filter out whoever this really isn't for. It is definitely not something for very many people, and in a way it is for no one. Oh my god, I don't know if I'll be able to explain this. So I guess if you are in the world of meditation, let's say, particularly Buddhist informed practice, with one of the main goals being insight into certain qualities of reality that can be discerned to, yes, indeed, verify and match certain very radical descriptions of reality and the concept of self. This is all pretty aligned with modern neuroscience too. One of the main things being the self is not a fixed, static thing. And so also the self is not technically a thing. And if it's not a thing, it doesn't actually exist, at least not in the way that we can conceptualize, because our thoughts are, by their own nature, since they are symbolic, and the symbols themselves are static, like the way like a word is static, like the word tree never changes, even though the thing it represents is constantly changing, and it's a whole category with endless subcategories of processes that are happening. And those processes are collections of processes, which are collections of processes, which are collections of processes, and it nests all the way down and all the way up. Like there's a process called Earth that is made up of a tree and us as cells or atoms of that process, and we're just projecting a distinction on it through the label to be able to talk about it. And so we do the same thing with our concept of ourself, with the concept of money, with the concept of cars, with the concept of communication. Everything that we can think about, everything that we can label, everything that we can produce a sense of symbolism for, falls into this matrix that we use to simulate reality to some degree internally, so we can use that model for prediction, creativity, communication, and also generating a whole lot of tension and physical, mental, emotional discomfort. And so to meditate on the nature of the self, of the I, that which has apparently this capacity to become identified with what our labels are referencing or inferring exists, but isn't actually there in the way we think. That function of identification can, in a way, zoom in and retract. And to get stuck zoomed in on something is saying something like, oh, I'm a doctor, or I'm a good person. And so whenever we are confronted with a situation that threatens or could potentially threaten the solidity of that claim, then if we are believing too much in the truthfulness of the words instead of the fact that the words are pointing at something else and just trying to represent it, then our survival systems come into play, and we have emotional reactions, we have somatic reactions, and we feel tension and suffering and malcontent and incompleteness, because we are trying to act as if the source of our life force, of our consciousness on some level, of our self, our most fundamental layer of whatever we are, somehow originates in those things or depends on those things to feel secure. And security safety being one of our few default presets of what we strive to maintain, thus allowing us to feel able to explore and express ourselves as ourselves without masking or overly strategizing or being aggressive or defensive and all of these other things that create an experience of disharmony. Let's see, I get on these tangents and I kind of lose track of where I was taking it sometimes, but let's see. So through whatever process of insight, it can be seen and realized that, oh, I'm not these things that I call myself. In the same way that you can taste salt and realize, like, oh, this is what salty means. And all of the ideas I've had about salt are totally out the window in comparison to the raw, direct experience and realization of what that experience means in relation to the rest of my meaning-making internal map, which in this case has a lot of implications, or resolution or dissolution of a lot of implications that we subconsciously kind of hold on to, that make us feel defensive just due to the inherent instability of every moment, because it's always changing and there's always an element of uncertainty. And so if we're grasping onto certainty and permanence, then we in this way, then it sets us up to feel like we are always failing to achieve a sense of wholeness, basically, because we're leveraging the wrong thing to draw from wholeness and therefore experience it on like the more conventional or practical or human layers of what we're made up of. And, you know, because obviously we're made of humanness, but below that we're made of something older, and at the bottom of that we are made of whatever caused the Big Bang, and that's still there, that's still operating as the fundamental substrate of our being, of our self. So it feels pretty clear to say that that is what we should be drawing from in order to access and construct our sense of wholeness, because it's always there too. We can't not be in it, as it, through it, because it's the thing that everything's made of. Let's see. So what I think myself to be can never be an accurate portrayal of what I am. And so as I come to an awareness of the psychic function of movement that we've labeled belief, and how it feels for belief to extend towards something, to retract from that idea, and even to push against, as disbelief, other ideas, we gain an awareness of, in the same way a baby does its legs and its hands and that it can use them to do things, we gain an awareness of that belief is a function of our mind, it's a limb of our psychic body, and if we can use it consciously, we won't trip over ourselves all of the time. We won't get manipulated by reality, and we'll be able to dance with and participate with reality. And we won't be, basically, I think, trapped in the wheel of samsaric karma, which I think is just created, experientially at least, through all of the beliefs that we hold to be either true or untrue, and just pour our energy of that function into those things, and then it creates this almost like this prism of relating through which we relate to every experience, because it has to filter through that construct of beliefs and all of the ideas that we are unconsciously attaching to our belief function. So, So there is the understanding of the transient, unnameable, empty nature of all things, including the self. And there is the insight into the felt direct experience that proves that to be the case, so that it no longer can be a mental struggle of, is it true, is it not true? How do I understand this? I need to read more, I need to learn more. You've been initiated into tasting the flavor by whatever experience does that. And now to think of salt and what it tastes like does not bring you into a conceptualization with symbols of what it may or may not taste like, what it's compared to. You have that raw, still memory of what that experience is, and you can draw from that, and so on. And so the same thing can happen through any life experience, really. It can be a conversation or a moment or a meditation or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Myself is not something that can be defined. It can only be lived. And in living that, I come into a deeper and deeper, over time, blossoming of just existing as my own presence, and letting that be enough to get the job done of every moment, and not having to retreat into a mental abstraction and simulation of what things could be and might have been, to mentally rehearse how to do it best to then get whatever objective has been imagined by that same arbitrary set of rules and symbols and projections and assumptions to be what is needed or wanted. And so we can distance the sense of belief from that mental paradigm in the recognition that whatever I use a word to represent is pushed away from me in a way by the use of that word. And yet at the same time, I cannot understand or talk about, or in many ways really interface with any of my experience without that symbolic layer of words and the separation that it implies, and the feeling of separation, even if subtle, that comes up along with that. You don't have to. It just, it depends on how functional you want to be in the human society game. So all of that being said, and this is the part after this very long intro, I hope, well, I guess whoever this is for will have made it this far. And if it's for nobody, it's nice for my process to try to verbalize it and share it with the idea of an audience hearing it. So with all of this in mind, I believe that anyone can come to notice and perceive the feeling of tension, whether it be physical, emotional, or mental, that comes up when you are thinking and also believing that the thoughts in your head are true. And you can go really deep with this. You can think about, okay, what do I believe is the truth of reality? And maybe you think there's God and Jesus, and they have this, what they've set up and how we're going through it. And you can feel that sense of allegiance to that idea of almost like a confidence or a conviction or a faith that this is true. And then you can feel its antithesis, right? Of oh, well, there's this other idea, and I don't believe that that's true. And maybe you even say, I believe that it's not true. And then there could be something else where it's what's 623 divided by 0.000125? It's well, I don't know. And that feeling, really try to know it, to solve the equation. And your brain goes, I don't know. And there's that clear space of awareness of not knowing. So it's kind of paradoxical, because there's a part of you that is the knower the perceiver of experience, and it's perceiving the experience of not knowing. And that is the place in between believing or not believing. And so you have the option, the power, and I think the duty to retract your belief function from its negative and positive pole. To say, I believe in this theology, I disbelieve in that theology, and also there is an element of uncertainty. And that doesn't mean I have to change the way I live if I have a sense of hope or consideration for one or the other. I can still live in a way that follows the rules to that, while also allowing myself to experience what it's like to admit that I don't know. Even if I've had experiences that seem like very convincing evidence, there could be more. I could have interpreted it wrong. Who knows, right? It could have been a trick. And I don't know, maybe there's more to this than I know, but this is where I'm at with it. So this is what I'll share. And so let's see. The important thing is to allow yourself to try this. If it feels dangerous to unbelieve, that's interesting, because it's still going to be true. It will still be there. It will be just fine whether or not you are feeding it your belief. And so if you have enough conviction or faith that it's right, then you don't need to believe in it. You can just do what it says, or not, right? And for me, there's a lot of freedom in realizing that I just don't know. And so I can use belief to plug into things and see what happens. But right now, what feels best to me is to unplug from everything and then see what happens, because that's the one thing I've never done. And this can go deep, like I was saying. I believe in the concept of a car. And I feel that. I can feel on this level, there's a very slight sense of like drawing in, or kind of mental, even a little bit of physical clamping around, like, this is what a car is. This is my relationship to this thing. This is how I feel about it. And when I can admit to myself that there is no such thing as a car, then those, and like, again, like truly see that and have that direct experience and insight of it, the physical, mental, emotional tension related to upholding the belief of, and the need for that belief to be maintained for some reason, that a car is real, that it exists, that melts away. And I can do this with everything, with every word, with every idea, with every combination of words. I notice there's a tension, there's a closing. And as I allow myself to admit that those things truly don't exist, in the same way that a self does not exist, that a tree does not exist, that whatever does exist is on the other side of what I'm able to perceive. And so I can only engage with it through symbols that are not the thing. The symbols themselves are a true, real experience, just as symbols. But even to reference symbols, I have to create another symbol, which is the word and the idea of symbols. So there's no winning here with description. That's why they say the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. And it's like, damn it, they're right. You literally cannot name it. So it's an interesting thing to try to use language while also letting go of the part of me that wants to believe in language. And I don't know if hopefully I explain this in a way that can click. I honestly don't think it will. I've been trying to get this for a few years now, and I don't know, it just really clicked in a much more clear way today. So I wanted to share it. Yeah, so I don't know where I'll post this yet, but if you did get through, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. I would love to have more conversations about this with anybody that's interested. And see what that's like.